No matter if points are gained or points are lost, there will be much to discuss. For analysis regarding tonight's Winnipeg Jets game, here are Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg, and your host, Drew Mandel. The Illegal Curve post-game show, presented by Play Now, the official sports betting partner of the Winnipeg Jets, starts now.
Like all good things, Ezzy, all good things must eventually come to an end. And the Jets,
except the legal curve,
which somehow, I don't know if that's a good thing, but it's never come to an end since 2007 when we began this little endeavor. But the Jets' undefeated streak at 8-0-0 has now come crashing down at the hands of the Toronto Maple Leafs, which I'm sure brings a lot of joy to. Well, there are a lot of folks in the building, the first sellout of the season, plenty of Leaf fans for the game at the game tonight, Ezzy. But the Jets, the theme of tonight's game, 5-on-5. The line blender was out, but special teams continue to work. 6-on-5 play continues to work. But the problem for this Jets club is the 5-on-5. They're just not getting it done. They fall 6-4. We saw 2 hat tricks. John Tavares, Kyle Connor get their hat tricks. Kyle Connor with a 4-point night, but it just wasn't enough. The Jets climbed back into the game a couple of different times, and some, poor play leads to a lack of joy in Joyville, as former Jets coach, I was going to say 1.0, but really it's 2.0 first coach Claude Noel used to say.
Yeah, did Kyle Connor get a hat trick though? I'm looking at NHL.com and it looks like they've given Gabe Vilardi the goal. So
okay, it does make sense because Gabe Vilardi thought it kind of looked the way the reaction was that Vilardi thought he tipped it and Kyle Connor pointed to him and Gabe Vilardi led the line. So I suspected that he may have gotten it, but either way, so it's a 2-goal, 2-assist night for Kyle Connor.
That was one of the best games I've ever seen Kyle Connor play. And it was in a losing manner, obviously. But what's worse, Dave, the Jets' unbeaten streak coming to an end, or the fact that Kyle Connor's hat trick is stolen from him, and the fact that John Tavares' hat trick had more hats on the ice. I mean, every time the Leafs are in town, we talk about this, but obviously half the building was Leafs fans, or close to half the building was Leafs fans for that matter, right? But yeah, you mentioned, 5-on-5 wasn't very good. I mean, the Nylander, Tavares, Pacioretty line absolutely feasted on Samberg and Pionk. Samberg and Pionk were on the ice for all 5 goals against. Obviously, we've been talking a lot about that pair and how well they've been playing together because it's a relatively new pair. They played a little bit together last year, but obviously it was mainly Dylan and Pionk, of course. But that pair struggled tonight. There were turnovers. The Jets, obviously, Logan Stanley, he took a couple penalties in the first period. Wasn't a very good night for that pair, I didn't think.
No.
But generally speaking, the Jets couldn't handle the pressure. I mean, there was a lot of pressure coming from the Leafs, and obviously, they know the best way to counterattack, a quick puck moving Jets team is to get all over them. And it started, early in the first period, and it continued. And if you're a Leafs fan, you're happy with that win. But I mean, you should be able to lock down a 5-2 lead in the third period a little bit more easy than that. The Jets made a game out of it. And obviously the Leafs kept taking penalties and the Jets kept scoring on the power play. And so look, the Jets are going to take what they're given. And, Kyle Connor had the hot hand, even though he didn't end up getting the hat trick. As you mentioned, Dave, he had 4 points. So
yeah,
look, it was an exciting game, 10 goals. I mean, that's, you can't ask for many more goals than that, unless you're talking about, the Edmonton Oilers where the Jets scored 6. But, I think that game was really over, after Nylander's goal, the goal that made it 4-0. I mean, it's tough to come back down 4 goals. And even though the Jets have done this, and we've talked about this, quite a bit early on in the season, the Jets prior to this game, they'd given up the first goal 6 out of 8 games, right? So they can come back down a goal or even down a couple goals. But I mean, look, Stolarz was actually pretty good considering that he gave up 4 goals. And I didn't think Hellebuck was that bad. Remember that save he made on Max Domi in the third period? I mean, that was when the score was 5-3. So that allowed the Jets to come within a goal. But, I didn't think a lot of these goals were Hellebuck's fault. It was more so just poor defensive play. And we'll get into the nitty-gritty details in the Play Now game recap. But it just wasn't the sharpest game. Like even in that third period, didn't result in a goal. But I referenced the Domi. But Samberg takes a spill, coughs up the puck. and then Domi goes in for a chance. So it was just one of those nights where I don't know what it was. And you're right, Dave, all good things do come to an end, except a legal curve. But I think that, you have to be pretty happy if you're the Jets. Look, you only played one good period. They really only came alive in the third period.
Yeah.
The first couple periods, they just weren't good enough. So yeah, you like the fact that, you scored some power play goals, but yeah, they have to be better at 5-on-5. I just think they struggled a lot with the speed and the forechecking pressure of the Leafs.
Well, it was clear the Leafs had a game plan, right? And we've seen a number of comments from the chat. And welcome to everyone who's joining us for our second Illegal Curve broadcast of the day. Of course, we had our first of the year Illegal Curve pregame show, which was a special edition of the Illegal Curve hockey show, which we did to set up the game tonight. Drew and I did that at City Place, Ezzy, and that was a lot of fun. Met some folks down there, and we had a great time chatting for about an hour on that broadcast. But
I couldn't join you boys, but I was watching. I watched most of it. You guys did an awesome job, and we're excited to do 5 more shows. I think we're doing there.
At least 5 more shows that we've got. We're up on the big board. It's kind of nice every
5
time.
Plus the playoffs. Yeah,
5 plus, hopefully plus the playoffs. So we're waiting to hear from Scott Arneal what his words are from the Matt Frost Media Center. We'll have that courtesy of Colby Spence. I will say Colby had a feast today because, well, Jets fans may not have liked it. We get a lot of the home jersey shots, of course, from Colby, but very infrequently, as do we get for the Illegal Curve archives away jerseys, because Colby doesn't go away for us very often. He goes to Calgary sometimes to shoot the games there. But today, of course, a little bit of a wrinkle in that the Jets were wearing their the home white, the road whites, because the Leafs had requested to wear their black jerseys. Why they requested that, I do not know, but we've seen that before. I remember 2015, I think, when the Ducks late in the season wore their orange jerseys, and there's been other instances as well. So it's not the first time it's ever happened. Maybe we'll start with, again, I guess the question I have for you is what did you think about the game on Prime? Any thoughts with respect to that? Did you enjoy the broadcast? I know there's a lot of frustration out there, and maybe some folks in the chat can mention whether they were able to get on no problem, or whether they had any issues with the broadcast.
Well, yeah, before I give my own, personal take on it, I thought the broadcast was fine. I mean, John Forsland is a good friend of the show. We've had him on many times going back to the TSN 1290 radio days. So as far as I'm concerned, Forsland is one of the best play-by-play guys in the league. We happen to have a really good one here in Winnipeg in Dan Robertson. But I think John Forsland is right up there with the best of the best. And obviously we got to give a shout out to Jody Shelley, good Manitoban.
Thompson, Manitoba
up north. We've had him on the show a bunch of times, mostly to come on and talk about the Blue Jackets, but he obviously does some national work as well. But I think, the main thing with Prime, the issue that a lot of people have with it is a lot of people don't have it.
Yes.
So I don't know how many people are like, a lot of people have it because you get it with your Amazon Prime membership, right? You just get a free subscription. But I think that's the issue for a lot of folks is, to make the decision to spend however much a month it is, just to watch how many Jets games are on Prime this year, maybe 3 or 4. There's not a lot, right?
3 more after this one.
Yeah. So there's 4. So are you going to pay, I don't know how much it is, Dave, I'll be honest, like $10 a month, $15 a month, whatever it is, for some folks, that's, something that they can't afford or they're just not willing to do. So I think that's unfortunate, right? That you exclude some Jets fans. But as far as the broadcast went, I like how you could watch the warm-ups prior to, I know you were at Canada Life, but for half an hour, you could watch the warm-ups. There was no, narration happening. It was just kind of the sounds of the rink. So I like that. But I think they did a good job. Adnan Virk, it's good to see him, on the broadcast. So I mean, I think overall, I enjoyed watching the game. It's just unfortunate, like I said, I think some folks were upset that they just didn't have access to watch the game because they don't have Amazon Prime. But, as far as I'm concerned, streaming, look, we stream our show. We used to be on terrestrial radio. Right. Now we stream our show, right? So, I mean, I think it's good for hockey that, Amazon is involved. But again, I wish just, maybe it was included as part of a traditional cable package.
Yeah, I think that would have been, because like I was talking to my 97-year-old grandfather, who I said to him, I said, just so you know, in case you're looking for the game tonight on television, it won't be on traditional TV. And of course, his response was, so I won't watch it. It's like, okay, Zeta, yeah, that's cool. But
I had a
just so you
similar
know.
conversation with my dad today. And I think he has a Prime membership, by the way.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the same kind of thing. It's a little bit weird, right? But that's the world we live in, right? Like,
Mhm.
you can not like it, and I know some people don't like it. But look, put it this way, Dave. It looks like the Amazon NHL relationship. It's going to continue. I don't think this is going to be a one and done.
The only thing I would say is, again, I just don't like the idea of excluding folks. This is, you want to have the product. First of all, I mean, the one thing about the NHL is you'd think they'd almost have it so there could be, I know they're like our American friends who join this broadcast. Okay, Scott O'Neill's coming out. We'll talk about this on the other side of the break.
Scott, what contributed to the slow start for your group tonight?
No, it was throughout, whether it was just our ready to go, ready to compete, ready to get into it. Don't have an answer for it. Toronto was a heck of a lot better than we were. They wanted it, and they came in here and gave us a punch right in the nose the first two periods. A little late when we responded. Just not good enough. Didn't come out the way we've come out.
Sure. Obviously, a loss was going to come at some point. What do you look for in terms of the response now when you get ready for Wednesday?
Yeah, we'll move off it. We'll look at it as coaches, and we'll talk about it. But you move on to your next game. We got to go to Detroit and go back out on the road again and start over. It's like we've talked about. Whether it was a win or a loss, you got to move on to the next one. We still got 73 to go. There's still a lot of hockey to go here, so learn from this and move on.
There were a couple of moments where it looked like some pushback was beginning to build. I mean, at 4-0, Lowry's line goes and they hit everything that moves. At 4-2, you've got the power play, some momentum and things like that. But it never, like the sparks didn't build into that next wave for a while. What did you see on that front?
Yeah, it just felt like everybody was off. It was everybody. It was like you said, there was momentum building, and then all of a sudden, we'd make whether it was a mistake or made a habit, was it a turnover or bad coverage, whatever, and all of a sudden Toronto would get some great chances. And it was just those first two periods. That's a lot of what we did. It was just kind of shot ourselves in the foot.
You referenced getting sort of punched in the nose there. What was the message and tone like in the second intermission?
Well, I just told them we had 20 minutes to go, third period to go. We had two scoring chances, 5-on-5. That's what we ended up with, 2 scoring chances. So just wanted us to go out, have a third period where we go out and work, go out and go after them, change the lines up because I had to try something. And at the end of the day, we spent some more time in there in the rink. All our goals came off of specialty team situations, 6-on-5, whatever. So we didn't get inside enough. That was probably the biggest answer.
The 4 minutes and change, I think, goalie pull, is that kind of the idea? Like, you don't mind an early pull this year?
No, I don't. I mean, when you're down 2, it's different when you're down 1. You're down 2, you can't waste the clock. So as soon as you get an offensive situation, then we'll go after it.
The Scheifele, Velarde, and Connor line was on the ice for 2 goals against at 5-on-5. It's now around, I think, 8 or 9 to 2. What do you need to see from them to start to win those minutes?
I'm not going to start explaining what line does what against the opposition because I can go back to the 8 games before, and I still think there's a lot of good hockey that's been played by those 3 guys. So there wasn't anybody that was good tonight for 2 periods. Toronto came out and took the game from us. They came in here and they played a lot harder and won a lot more battles than we did. Thank you.
Thank you.
There he goes. Jets head coach. Not very happy. Not a lot of joy in his joyland as Jets head coach Scott Arniel. 2 5-on-5 chances. I think he said through 40 minutes of play. That's not going to cut it.
Well, the Jets didn't have a single high danger chance at 5-on-5 in the first period.
Oh yeah, it was. Well, I mean, how many shots did they have in total? I think they had, and I'm not joking when I say this.
6.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure 2 of them were from a long range. So yeah, no surprise there that the Jets were not. They weren't good. Toronto came in, dictated the pace of play, and I'm not going to blame it all on Logan Stanley. I mean, it was definitely a boneheaded closing his hand on the puck in the first period. Like, I mean, maybe he thought he was in the neutral zone. I don't know what he was thinking, but regardless, like it just seemed like that was kind of a beginning of the kind of the Jets just not having it. They just weren't in They weren't good. They really weren't. Again, like I said, like you can't play only special teams games and expect to win. Sometimes you can, but really you shouldn't be expecting that. Your 5-5 has to be better.
Stanley took a bad penalty, but they killed it off, right? So like,
well, the PK was good.
Yeah, but it's like, what I'm saying is that it wasn't like, the Stanley penalties were ill-advised, but that's not why they lost the game. They lost the game because the Maple Leafs, like when you say dictate the pace of play, you throw that out a lot, but really in this game, the Jets didn't have the puck really in the first period,
right?
Simply put, and the Leafs were all over them, led by obviously the Tavares line, and we're not going to get into his new business venture with the magic amulets or anything like that. But he was excellent tonight. Obviously, Captain Obvious speaking here with this hat trick. But I mean, you had William Nylander who was turning pucks over. Matthew Nyes is a very talented player. He's obviously on the top line with Austin Matthews. But I mean, I just thought that the Leafs came in, as you said, Dave, with a game plan where they wanted to make sure that they weren't letting the Jets do what they do best, which is control the play, get the puck up quickly, get it into the kind of low areas before they get it back up high, and Connor and Scheifele and Velarde do their thing. And I thought Velarde was really good tonight. He's been criticized quite a bit for his lack of goal scoring through 9 games, but at the end of the day, the Leafs came in here. Just to provide some context, the Leafs and every other team in their division seems to be 500 right now. But the Leafs had lost 3 games in a row, and that was a very unfortunate loss to the Bruins on Saturday night. So you knew the Leafs were coming in here a very motivated and angry bunch, right, Dave? So I mean, I think you got to give them credit here, and I think oftentimes, especially in the early parts of the season, we'll look at records and say, well, the Jets are 8-0 and the Leafs are 4-1. Let's not forget that a lot of people were picking the Leafs to win the division this year. Not necessarily win the Stanley Cup, but a lot of people thought, the Bruins would take a step back. The Leafs were already a top 2 team. I think they finished second in the Atlantic last year, second or third. That's usually where they are. But so like you have to kind of put the records aside sometimes, right? Like it's easy to look at the Jets record and say, oh, well, they're just going to steamroll the Leafs. Well, we obviously saw what happened. The Leafs got an early goal. They got another one, and then they just built on that in the second period. And it's unfortunate that, the Jets weren't able to eventually tie it up because they got close. But, we talk about it so many times. A 2-goal lead is very different than a 2-goal deficit is very different than a 3-goal deficit. So they just ran out of time. I was a little bit surprised that Hellebuck wasn't pulled. Like earlier, he was pulled obviously on the Gabe Velarde goal. We thought it was the Kyle Connor goal, but then they didn't pull him till what was it? A minute left, 55 seconds left. They just couldn't get any possession. But I thought that was a little bit curious why they didn't just pull him even without possession. But I don't think really that's the reason why the Jets lost tonight. They lost tonight because the Leafs absolutely took it to them, and the Tavares line just completely dominated the pair of Sandberg and Pionk.
Yeah, there's no question about that. I think that's another good point, is that the defensive groupings were not, and we saw we'll get into it when we start the Betway game recap. The play now game recap. And that's one of the things that we're going to focus on, of course, in the third period was the line. We saw it in the second period, the line blender, and then of course in the third period as well. And that's one of those things that, was it too little, too late? Well, we'll see what kind of continuation that has. Jets are scheduled to practice tomorrow, and then they'll be back in business when they head to Michigan. So we'll see if they make any radical changes to the lines.
I can almost guarantee you that will not happen.
You think that no substantive change?
Which one of those lines is gonna be a line for the next game? None of those. I mean, that he's just making those line changes to get something going.
Right. Yeah. But what you're saying is there will be no. But do you think that
what's a radical line change? Like, is that Ehlers on the top line? I mean, I'm just saying, like, I don't think that you should read into anything outside of this game. I guess that would be my opinion.
Okay, well, I mean, and that's obviously very.
I mean, is Kupari going to center the second line?
It's fair point by you. I mean, probably not, but yeah, I know. I mean, it's like I said. Let's get into it. We'll get the play now game recap going, and then we'll get into this. Ezzy, there's a lot of goals, so we got to bank some time here for that.
The play now game recap.
Learn to bet with Play Now, Ezzy, the official betting partner of the Winnipeg Jets. Sign up and get up to $250 in bonus bets. Conditions apply. 18 plus. Enjoy responsibly. Well, as I indicated, as the game started with a PK, and one of the things, the Toronto Maple Leafs, as I was surprised when I was doing the game preview, I was shocked that the Leafs power play is so abysmal. 29th in the NHL. Sure, it's early in the season, but with the amount of talent they have, I was anticipating that they'd have a bit better of a power play, a bit more of an effective power play, and yet ranked 29th in the NHL. And the Jets, who, when we were talking about this a few days ago, had the 15th ranked PK. Now it's jumped up to the 6th ranked PK. And again, with two more kills today, will be even higher. But anyways.
Yeah, I think that, you're right to say that, it's surprising that the Leafs have one of the bottom power plays. I thought the same thing about the Pittsburgh Penguins last year. They had, I think, the 29th ranked power play, and with Carlson and Malkin and Crosby and Letang and Raquel, and the list goes on and on. You're kind of just, based on skill alone, you're kind of wondering to yourself, how are they that bad? Same thing goes with the Leafs, right? But I think, when you look at the first goal that was scored, if you want to get into the first goal, Dave,
sure.
I think this is just all pressure, right? Like, it's just all pressure. And, Pacioretty, I think, deserves some airtime here, because he's a guy that I think a lot of people were kind of surprised that the Leafs gave him at PTO, but he played well in the preseason and he earned his spot. So I think, just right off the bat, I just wanted to say that I think, good on Pacioretty for, finding a role here on the Tavares line. But, it's just, it's pressure. Nino Niederreiter, it goes off his skate. He falls down, and it's kind of just a comedy of errors, just kind of poor defensive coverage. And then both Pionk and Samberg go to Pacioretty, and then it's just Tavares is wide open. So it was just poor defensive coverage towards the end of a shift, and just kind of good work by that line down low, just kind of out muscling the Jets. But Samberg and Pionk, I think, they know what they did wrong there. That's for sure.
Well, they don't execute a switch, right? So when Samberg sees Pionk stepping up, I mean, you could argue, why is Pionk jumping over? But again, he's got it. Samberg's got to stay with his man. He goes kind of watches the puck, and a little bit unfortunate, right? As he Pacioretty kind of swipes at the puck, and then does kind of a blind no look, and then turns around. But it's that kind of, to me, was emblematic of the way the Jets would play throughout the course of the game. Opportunities to get pucks out of their zone, and failure to do so, right? Failure to launch, to quote the old Matthew McConaughey movie. But that, to me, was like I said, emblematic of what we saw from these Jets throughout the course of this hockey game, where, Nino Niederreiter, it's like he's playing soccer. He tries to kick the puck out of the zone. Well, it's not going to be there's not going to be a lot of velocity there. Sometimes the kick works, but that's not a very effective way of doing it. And they fail to execute it, and they're down 1-0. And look, we've talked about it. Six of the 8 games coming into tonight, they'd given up the first goal of the game. They did it on the road. All 3 games on the road, right? It's just become kind of the calling card of Winnipeg. And Scott Arniel was asked about it. He said, "Don't trust me. I'd like to be starting the game with a 1-0 lead, not down 1-0. And then he talked about the resiliency of his group. Well, the resiliency of his group was going to be tested, because, about 6 minutes later, William Nylander scores from Max Pacioretty. You talk about Max Pacioretty, as his name was all over the score sheet. So his PTO that he signed was definitely, and then the 1-year deal was definitely worth it. But again, it's
a good story, right? Like, I'm not a particular, Max Pacioretty super fan. I'm certainly not a Maple Leafs fan, but you love to see a guy, right? Like, he was on Washington last year, and he missed some time. Obviously, he missed a lot of time. And you just love to see, like, at least I do, I love to see that kind of underdog story where there's not a lot of expectations. Like, I think a lot of people thought, like, that might have been it for his career, to be honest with you. I think there were other teams that were interested. None come to mind right now, but you just love to see a guy that, turns a PTO into a top 6 role now, right? And who knows if Pacioretty's going to stick in that top 6. The way he played tonight, he certainly will, right, Dave? But yeah, I think you just love to see that, regardless who it is or what team it is. It's just a good story.
Well, okay, so there he is behind the net pressuring Neil Pionk, and then Neil Pionk, again, I don't know why I'm quoting a lot of Claude Noel tonight, Ezzy, but he gives up a free pizza.
Yep.
And it's pretty egregious mistake because the game's 1-0. The Leafs are buzzing, right? You're being outshot heavily. You're being outshot, I think, 12-3 when the Leafs took the 1-0 lead. Now you're being outshot 17-6. So all the momentum is in the favor of the Toronto Maple Leafs. And so you're thinking, how do we regain that favor? Well, you can regain it by not making pretty bad mistakes. And again, another mistake ends up in the back of your net. Can't really blame Connor Hellebuck here because he's not expecting that puck to end up in front of him. Pacioretty anticipates, grabs it, puts it out in front, and Nylander makes no mistake putting that one home.
Well, I think, Dave, there's some similarities. We've talked about this over the years. There's similarities between the Leafs and the Jets in terms of the amount of just pure skill that they have in their lineup, right? And this looks like a pretty innocuous play. Like, right, the puck comes around the boards. Samberg kind of awkwardly takes it on his backhand, and then I don't know if it's because it's a backhand to backhand, D partner to D partner thing, but Pionk just can't handle it because there's pressure from Pacioretty. And like, look, Samberg and Pionk are not going to have perfect games every single game. And obviously tonight they were bad, and they know they're bad. When you're on the ice for 5 goals against, you know, you don't need to, it's not like Scott Arniel and the coaching staff are going to have to, sit them down and, oh, did you guys realize that you were -5 tonight? Like,
you sure did suck. You were the suckiest bunch of sucks that ever did suck.
Right. So, I mean, I think, it was just a combination of, not the best pass from Samberg to Pionk, but he coughs it up, and there's no way you can sugarcoat that. He coughs it up, and it goes from Pacioretty to Nylander to the back of the net. And, the Leafs were all over. And you mentioned the shot differential. Like, yeah, the Leafs were all over them. Matthew Nyes had a really good scoring chance in that period as well that I took a note of. Austin Matthews absolutely shot down the left side and ended up missing the net, but he was noticeable out there. So, I mean, it was just, it was all Leafs. I mean, there's no other way to put it. That period, we mentioned it earlier, the Jets didn't have one single high danger chance, and they were outshot 19-6. So they were lucky to only be down 2-0, to be honest with you.
Well, that is how that first period would end, as 2-0. We welcome everyone here to the Illegal Curve post-game show brought to you by our friends at Play Now. But the Jets, you'd think, okay, 2-0. This is a team that has 8 wins in a row. They can't win them all, but you're outshot heavily in that first period. And what is the bounce back? 19-6 as was the final shot total. They killed the 2 penalties, so that is the one positive. Both penalties to Logan Stanley. So that's the one kind of positive that you can draw from that first period, but that's about it. So you think to yourself, okay, well, the Jets are going to, hit the smelling salts, get ready, come out ready to go in that second period, ready to fly for the middle frame. But it's Matthew Nyes who is the one who is flying. He gets his 5th goal of the season. Pretty impressive numbers from that young man. 56 seconds into the second period, he gives the Leafs a 3-0 lead. So what was your kind of takeaway from this one, Ez?
Well, in addition to the fact you said 56 seconds, if I'm not mistaken, Nyes was taken 57th overall because he was a 2nd-round pick. The year the Jets took Chaz Lucius, 18th overall. Nyes went to Toronto in the 2nd round. I think it was 57th overall. I was just looking at that earlier on Hockey DB. I'd have to confirm it. But, again, it's not really like a play that should have been that bad, but like it's kind of Hellebuck was a little bit. Yeah, it was 57th, right?
Yeah,
I knew it was 56th or 57th. I mean, what a great draft pick. That's a steal in the 2nd round for the Leafs, the University of Minnesota standout, right? Yeah, I mean, like it just seemed like to me like this was Hellebuck kind of being a little bit unsure in the back of the net, behind the net, and we've seen that before. But then it's almost like that kind of rubbed off on Dylan Samberg, Dave. You know what I mean? Like he wasn't really sure if Hellebuck. To me, it looked like Hellebuck was considering shooting it as opposed just to trying to get it over to Samberg. And I think that little bit of maybe, indecision by Hellebuck affected Samberg. But again, it's a turnover. Right. And, it happened on the second goal, and it happens here where, pressure by the Maple Leafs, by Matthew Nyes in particular, just kind of throws the Jets off. And after Nyes puts that pressure on Samberg, he gets it to Marner in the slot, and then now, Samberg is chasing Nyes, he's chasing Matthews, and then, Pionk just doesn't get to Nyes quick enough, but it all happens because of that play behind the net with Hellebuck and Sandberg, and the Leafs just pouncing on it. And that's the thing with the Leafs. That's what they do. They can score off of transition, but they have a lot of skilled players that, you know, if you're going to be sloppy around your own net with the puck, they're going to pounce on it. And that's what they did. And 3-0. And then now all of a sudden, you know, they're starting to run away with it.
Well, there's no excuse, right? Now you're being outshot 20-6 by the Leafs. But again, it's that idea as that you were expecting to come out, you know, and at least push back a little bit. Again, you don't have to score, you know, in the first minute, even though the Leafs were able to. But the idea being that you want to be able to like show that, you know, this is a good crowd. You want to have a little something, and you didn't. And it's, again, like I said, look, the Jets weren't expecting to win them all, but it's more how you're playing in those games. So, okay, so the Jets have now find themselves 3-0 down. And you're like, okay, now they're going to wake up. Now the Jets are going to be ready to go. They're going to put it behind them, and yet they don't. Morgan Rielly shots. They've got a few more shots in this period, and it's the Scheifele line. Connor Hellebuck, you know, doesn't really know where the puck is at this point, but the Leafs just are attacking. They can almost like they're sensing the Jets, you know, weakness, and kind of a no-look pass by William Nylander to Morgan Rielly, and Rielly just kind of walks down and picks his spot, and suddenly it's 4-0. You're being outshot 24-8. The crowd is not happy. What are you seeing here in terms of the breakdowns from the Jets?
Yeah, well, they're running around a little bit, they're scrambling, but this pass is, I mean, I don't know if A+ or 10 out of 10 really does it here, but like, again, you have the Jets running around a little bit here, and you had Neil Pionk. I think he was, I forget who he was chasing there. It might have been Matthew Nyes there, or it could have been, because it was the Nylander line, it could have been Pacioretty, but so Pionk is running around a little bit out of position, and then Scheifele comes to help.
And he was going after Pacioretty. Yes, you're right.
Yeah, so it was Pacioretty, and then it's, you know, and then to me, it's just like you have the Jets that are loaded to the left of Hellebuck, and Velarde as the right winger it was kind of a little bit in, I always say no man's land, but he was just a little bit out of position, so that when that pass is made by Nylander to Rielly, Velarde is just not there quick enough. And so, I mean, it's a combination of kind of the Jets being a little bit too crammed together in their positioning and running around a little bit, and then just a world-class backhand pass, no-look backhand pass by William Nylander to Morgan Rielly. And as you mentioned, that goal was scored, 3 minutes after the third goal, or 2.5 minutes, whatever it was. And we've seen the Jets obviously do that many times over the years, the old Dennis Bayak bang, bang. But at 4-0, that's when we always say, like, that's when a game starts to really get out of reach. And obviously, you know, the Jets clawed back and made it 4-2. But that's what I would kind of say on that goal, Dave, like, as opposed to, you know, the second and third Leafs goals, which were just egregious turnovers. I mean, this is one, I think, where, you know, the Jets just, their positioning wasn't tight enough in their defensive zone. And yeah, it's easy to say that, but you know, I think Morgan Rielly was just, you can't leave him that wide open.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with what you said, Ed. I mean, the reality is that Gabe Velarde needs to not, I understand what he's trying to do, trying to overload the side to bring some support, but that leaves Morgan Rielly wide open, and he gets, and you're right, it's a fantastic pass by Nylander, but it allows him to walk in on Hellebuck and like we said, pick his spot. So how would the Jets respond? Well, no surprise, as they respond on the power play. We've talked about it, and a really interesting, and I we talked about it today on the pregame show, and we're Kelly Moore brought it up. He just talked about how prior to tonight's game, I should say, the Jets were even splits, and it's interesting how they were 4-0 at home, 4-0 away, 4-0 on the road. I don't know if this counts as a away loss or a home loss, considering they were wearing their away jerseys at home, but you can figure that out as. But they're 4-0. Their goal differentials was 18 goals for on the road, 18 goals for at home, 8 on the road against, 8 on the home against. But also interestingly, the goals for and assists for evenly split between PP1 and PP2. So it's been, and again, you can pillory the Jets all you want, but the one thing you can't complain about is their special teams, because top ranked NHL power play in the NHL, and I suspect now top 5 PK in the NHL after tonight. So once again, the power play goes to work. Kyle Connor, no surprise. He's approaching 500. It's funny, I noticed it because he was at 295 coming into tonight's game. I thought, he's going to get to 500 points soon. Sorry, he's at 495, and I was expecting him to get to 500 points. And I'm like, well, I'll probably do it on the road. Maybe he'll do it in Detroit if he has a good night tonight. Wasn't expecting him to almost do it tonight, but no surprise, Kyle Connor opens the scoring for the Jets on the power play with just a perfect shot.
Yeah, and Forsland and Shelley and Hickey, it's almost like they haven't seen that release before. They were like dumbfounded by the fact that the puck only stays on Connor's stick for like half of a second or a second, right? It's like, where have you guys been? He's done this 297 times before, right? In the NHL. But obviously, the power play, we talked about it on Saturday morning show, right, Dave? Like the Jets power play, like they're almost expecting to score every time they're on the ice now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an amazing thing. They've got such confidence and even I would call it swagger on the power play. But, again, it starts with, just some good old fashioned, power play setup by the Jets. And, it's just, what we've seen so many times before, Scheifele to Connor, and then that release. He doesn't one-time it, but it only stays on his stick for a very brief time. And it's a beautiful shot. And the thing that we've said so many times is like, whether you're Anthony Stolarz or you're Igor Shesterkin, it doesn't matter. You just don't have time to set up. When the pass comes that quickly, and then Connor gets it off of his stick that quickly, it's almost unstoppable. And, I think it goes off of, I forget if it went off of Stolar's upper shoulder or his helmet, but it was just a fantastic shot. He just didn't have you can't stop that. You just can't.
No, it was the LB wants Drew to be here. One of the few people who wants Drew to be here to rant about the blue line. Ezzy and I are doing a pretty good job ranting. We've definitely made some mention of the lack of, I don't know, success that they brought to tonight's game, but maybe we don't rant quite as well as Drew. I will say, as the only thing I would add to your assessment was, I thought Velarde was instrumental in almost all the goals, including the one we thought was Kyle Connor's third. But
net front for sure.
Net front, and again in this instance, he's not taking away his eyes, but he's making Stolarz think, here's a guy who's set up beside me. He could just easily redirect a pass right past him. So he's got to think about Velarde there. And he's got Kyle Connor, who's, just and one of the hallmarks of this team, not taking a long time, quick release. Kyle Connor fires it on net. Jets have a goal on the board. There's joy in Joyland, and are they going to be able to keep that rolling? They get a second power play opportunity. They don't score on that one, but I thought the power play looked good. I thought they created some more good movement. Kyle Connor actually could have scored at least once on that power play. So there were a couple more instances. And again, the Leafs kind of asking for trouble. I'm not saying that they were playing casual, but the fact of the matter is that you have to know how good, and the Leafs PK, I believe, coming into tonight's game was 9th overall in the NHL. So their PK has been good, but you just have to know that you can't give the Jets that. You can't afford to give them that opportunity. And they do. And suddenly it's a 4-2 game because Kyle Connor, once again, courtesy of an assist from Josh Morrissey and Gabe Velarde, makes it a 4-2 game. And again, as he just, how many times could we talk about Kyle Connor's release?
Well, it's almost like automatic. If he gets the puck on his stick in the right spot, it's almost like, at the very least, he's going to get a really good scoring chance and most likely score. And, you mentioned Gabe Velarde on this particular goal and the last goal where he was an option for Kyle Connor net front, but Chris Tanev steps up on him watching the replay here. And, Velarde does a nice kind of little toe drag on Chris Tanev, and that puts Chris Tanev a little bit out of position. So now that the Jets, they don't have a full 3-on-2, but now Tanev's getting back into the play. And, I'm not sure if, Tanev prevented Stolarz from seeing all of it, or if it was also Velarde, obviously, who was in front of the net. And in addition to being a good shot, but there was a lot of traffic there with Tanev and Velarde both in front of Stolarz, who's, 6'5", 6'6", but you've got two really big boys and Chris Tanev and Gabe Velarde in front of him. So that combined with the beautiful release from Kyle Connor resulted in a goal that now has the Jets officially back in the game. But that's what I really liked on this particular play is just, you go hard to the net and you get that puck again off quickly. Let's not, worry about setting the play up and finding this beautiful shot. Just bingo, bango, bongo, Morrissey to Connor, get some traffic in front of the net, back in the net.
Sorry, I just had to do some damage control. Guys, let's keep those comments civil. This is a hockey game. Let's not lose our minds. This is not a forum for anything other than a focus on hockey. So let's try and keep it on that. We don't need to bring any other crap to this show. And if you do,
this is a safe space for Jets fans and Leafs fans. Let's keep it classy, folks.
Yeah. So, although I hope I got rid of the right person, but I'm not sure. But anyways, I hope I didn't ban somebody else. But I think I don't know how long the ban is for. But regardless, you just can't be making stupid comments. There's no need for crap. I'm
the person who makes the stupid comments.
There you go. Anyways, let's get back in control here because Sorry, I got a little sidetracked because I saw, guys, remember, it's a little more difficult when just Ezzy and I, that's the beauty of the three-headed monster when we're doing this show is that, I am able to monitor comments a little bit more as is. Drew's doing some other stuff, but I saw folks reacting, so I wanted to make sure I got to it before it kind of got out of control. But anyways, point is, let's just move on and everyone have a good time. Smash that like button, though. I mean, we appreciate you joining us. I know folks are mad. They're mad about the prime. They're mad about the Jets' loss. They're mad about 5-on-5 play. They're mad about the defense.
We need to step back for a second here. The Jets are still 8-1. Let's not lose focus of that. Like, I was sending you messages in the private chat while we were playing Arneal's presser, and Arneal looked like he lost his dog. Like, it's just one game.
Now I feel terrible. I'm pretty sure I inadvertently got rid of the wrong person, so I'm gonna have to figure out how to go in because I just realized I saw the person who's making the comments was still chatting. I was like, nah. So I had to ban the second person, unfortunately. But now I got to figure out how to get LB back because I apologize to LB trying to get all these things happen. I apologize for that. Okay. Anyways, let's get back into this. So the Jets now is down 4-2, and you're thinking, cue the comeback. The Jets, the special teams get it done. They've got, quite a bit of hockey left because Kyle Connor scored that goal at the 11:25 mark of the second period. But then the Leafs add to their lead a second goal for John Tavares. And with just a few minutes, about 2 minutes and 7 seconds left in the second period, John Tavares gets his fourth from Oliver Ekman-Larsson and William Nylander. As would you see on this one?
Well, for me, it was like the Jets were having trouble with the pressure of this line, the speed of this line, and in this particular goal, I think what stands out to me is that John Tavares, it's kind of like you forget, with Matthews and Nylander and Marner, you forget that he's an elite scorer as well. But I mean, I just think that it's. It's just too much. It's too much pressure from that line, and that just resulted. I'll be honest here. I forget that goal. I'm trying to pull it up here.
That's okay. That's the one where Oliver Ekman-Larsson took the shot. Pacioretty tipped it. Connor Hellebuyck thought it went left. He looked right. Then the puck came right out to Tavares, and then you had.
Here I've got it up here. Yeah, so I mean, it was a wide shot by Ekman-Larsson, like you said, Dave, and Hellebuyck was kind of just turned around, and it's just a fortuitous bounce. I think you can't really get too. Yeah, I think that's really just what it was. It was just kind of Johnny on the spot, and that's just a veteran being in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, but the biggest problem for me is Dylan Sandberg and Neil Pionk vacating the front of the net. Max Pacioretty, his office was in front of Connor Hellebuyck. He was set up with nobody preventing him from being there. I mean, I don't know if he was paying rent or if he was living there rent-free, but he was right in front of that net, and he had nobody really kind of offsetting that. And that's a problem because he was able to do that. So it's Sandberg and Pionk way too far, just leaving, you can't have both guys abandoning ship in that regard. So that to me is a responsibility they have as defensemen to monitor who's at the front of the net. And the only other thing I thought was weird on this play when I was watching it was Mason Appleton. I understand his thought process trying to block the Oliver Ekman-Larsson one, but he did it. He slid. He was maybe 4 feet short of where Ekman Larson actually ended up firing from. So it looked like a fairly ineffective play. So now it's a 3-goal lead again for the Leafs heading into the third period. And you're wondering, okay, what's going to happen here next? What are the Jets going to do to try and, regain a measure of, are you going to just try and build some momentum for the next day? Are you going to, what are you going to do? And so here we go, as I'm just going to get into it. The third period lines were Ehlers, Scheifele, Velarde, Nita Ryder, Nemesnikov, Appleton, Connor, Lowry, Perfetti, Iafallo, Kupari, Barron, and then Morrissey was with Pionk, Stanley was with DeMello, and Sandberg was with Miller. So before we kind of get into the actual things that happened in that game, did you like the way it was kind of reconfigured?
Not really. I mean,
that's okay. Hey, if you didn't like it, tell us.
Well, I mean, I didn't know what the purpose of it was really. I mean,
right.
I didn't necessarily think Kupari was having a great game to switch him with Nemesnikov, but I don't really read that much into it because I don't think those lines are going to stick together. But
right.
We talked about it earlier. You like to see the comeback, like you mentioned. Third period, are you just trying to get the good feelings back so you can take something positive into the next game? But that's not what happened here. Like, the Jets were very much in this game. Obviously, it helped that the Leafs took a penalty there, but I like the fact that I just like the fact that, again, the Jets on the delayed penalty, I just love the killer mentality, and I love the fact that they were aggressive and they get rewarded with the 5-on-3 goal. And just, again, a beautiful pass from Connor to Scheifele. And, I just love the fact that, they showed that, when they have a delayed penalty or they're on the penalty or on the power play, that they're going to make you hurt. And the thing is, that was a key goal because, you're down 2 goals. This Jets team has proven this so many times this year that they can come back. So I love the fact that they did that in the third period, and they showed, I think they showed some resilience and showed some heart.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because how many 6-on-5 goals do the Jets have? And they weren't done there yet, but they just seem to continue to, again, be able to find the back of the net with the extra man. So there's the delayed penalty. And as you said, once again, though, no surprise, who's in front creating havoc? Gabriel Velarde. And quick strike, Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele. I mean, you can malign them for their 5-on-5, but when these guys have a little bit of extra advantage, they take advantage of it to kind of kill the word advantage. And suddenly the Jets are looking like, hey, they've got a little life left. Just 7:36 into the third period, so it's a good opportunity. Then they go aggressive again. 6-on-5 opportunity, pull Connor Hellebuck with 4:08 left in the third period, and we thought it was a Kyle Connor hat trick. Weren't sure. I mean, again, they said possibly Gabriel Velarde tipped it, but ultimately, as the Jets bring themselves shockingly within 1 goal with their second 6-on-5 goal of the game.
Yeah, and again, like, it's impressive what the Jets were able to do considering how badly they were outplayed for the first 2 periods. But they were showing no quit in them, and that's what I like to see. And it's a beautiful pass by Nick Ehlers to Kyle Connor in the slot. And yes, I agree with you what you said earlier, Dave. We kind of get tired of constantly saying how good these guys are at finding each other. But whether it's Scheifele, whether it's Connor, Morrissey, Ehlers, I mean, these guys, because they've played together for so long, they know where to go, they know where to put the puck. And I think you've talked about this a lot before. Ehlers deserves credit. I think he doesn't get enough credit for how good of a playmaker he is, even though usually his goals and assists are very, very similar to Kyle Connor, right? So, I just love how aggressive they were. I love the pass by Ehlers. And, just looking at this from a macro level, I think you like that even though they lost for the first time this season, they didn't show any quit. And they could have easily done that when they were down 3 goals, and they didn't. So, they ultimately didn't end up tying the game up. But you love the fact, I think that bodes well going into the next game against Detroit, in terms of, you're not happy with the way you played through the first 40 minutes, but you can at least have that third period where you can say, okay, we played well. In fact, we outplayed the Leafs. We made it a 1-goal game. And even though we lost, we were, one shot away from tying it up. So that's kind of what I took away from that third period and that, that goal by Ehlers. Pardon me, by Connor.
Yeah, or Velarde.
Oh, Velarde. Sure. I forgot that they gave it to Velarde, and he was net front, and he was creating havoc in front of the net. But I mean, it was Connor's goal. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, no, I mean, he did the work, and look, at the end of the day, the fact is that it's a 4-point night for Kyle Connor, regardless of whether he scored 3 goals, 1 assist, 2 goals, 2 assists. He's at 499 points, and you can say whatever you want about Kyle Connor, who I thought was one of the only Jets maybe going a little bit tonight, obviously. But I think what it comes down to is that, this is, you're right. If you want to try and find some solace, it's at least the Jets didn't quit. They tried to fight back in it. It also shows you can't not play a full game, but the Jets, who outshoot the Leafs 8-4 in the third, which isn't a ton or anything like that. And then with about a minute and a half to go, they're trying to pull the goalie. They don't pull the goalie. They leave Connor Hellebuck in a little bit later than we were expecting, as we talked about before we got rolling here. And then, sure enough, John Tavares, he wants the hat trick. He says, if Kyle Connor can get a hat trick, why not me? Although it turns out he's the only one who ends up with a hat trick. But he puts it into the empty net to give the Leafs a 6-4 lead and send some Jets fans home unhappy and send some Leafs fans home happy.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, people aren't Jets fans especially aren't happy that the magical winning streak to start the season is over. But I also think that you got a couple power play goals, you erased a 3-goal deficit. Pardon me, you came back and made it a 1-goal deficit from a 3-goal deficit. So I think it's not the sky's not falling as far as I'm concerned. I know that Scott Arniel was pretty downtrodden, and anytime a team is outplayed like that through 40 minutes, I mean, coaches aren't that happy when they win the game, right? But I just think it's look, it goes back to what I said. The Leafs came into this game having lost 3 in a row with a 4-4-1 record, but then people forgot that this Leafs team is pretty damn good. So I think you can't take anything away from them the way they played, because they were the more desperate team. It's a cliche, but they really played like the more desperate team, especially in the first period and the second period. And all they had to do was hang on in the third period, and that's what they did.
Well, our good friend Dom Zappia, who was at City Place, came and said hello to us. He says the Jets are 2-10-1 versus the Leafs in the last 13 games at home, which is not particularly good. So that's something to chew on. Now the Jets won't have to face the Leafs again in Winnipeg. They'll have to face them sometime in Toronto. I don't remember when that game is, but maybe next month. But regardless,
at the end of December,
the Jets fall
December 23rd, actually.
There you go. So I guess I'm technically not right because it's still October, but I was thinking late October, potentially December. You gave us the factoids, if you will.
I just remember because that's the last game before the holiday break, right?
So there you go. As he with the memories for the holidays. Anywho, Jets fall to the Leafs. First loss of the season for Winnipeg comes almost at the end of the first month of the NHL season. Jets are 8-1-0. They're not going to be practicing tomorrow. They're going to just travel straight to Detroit, and they'll be practicing on Wednesday. So no practice availability, no availability tomorrow because they will not be practicing. Wow, it's been a long day, a long night. We still got more to come, but we are going to head to commercial break. Ezzy, we want to thank everyone who's joining us. This is the second, of course, Illegal Curve broadcast that we've brought to you today. Hopefully everybody's enjoying it. No, Drew, I don't want to say anything, but as so far, Drew's done all the post-game shows except for this one. The Jets lose. I mean, is that a testament? Does that say something about things that
Drew has to do the last 73 games?
There you go.
He can't miss any of the 73 games because when he misses the show, they lose. So
there you go.
It's just math.
Well, this has been the Illegal Curve post-game show. We'll still have some more on the other side. Maybe I'll even throw some Moose stuff, some prospect talk, whatever comes up with mine and Ezzy. We got no Drew, so we can do whatever we want. Anyways, you're listening, you're watching, you're enjoying the Illegal Curve post-game show. Smash that like button. Make sure you're subscribed, and we'll hear some words from our sponsors. We'll be right back after them.
We want to thank you for not betting with Play Now and choosing our illegal gambling sites instead.
because we couldn't afford things like this without your money.
So much of your money.
Now, you might have questions like,
do our profits benefit your community?
No.
Or bet with Play Now, Manitoba's local legal and secure gambling site.
Dining, entertainment, parking, and convenience, all in one spot. City Place is located in the heart of downtown Winnipeg, attached to the Canada Life Centre. Whether you're working, living, or out for a night in the downtown, make City Place your go-to destination before or after the fun finds you. Lunchtime, game time, anytime, visit City Place at 333 St. Mary Avenue, next to Canada Life Centre. Holt Dental, the new official dentist of Illegal Curve, has a philosophy rooted in two unyielding principles: genuinely caring about patients and providing outstanding service. Being a patient of Holt Dental means more than just checkups and treatments. It's taking the time to listen and talk to each patient so they can achieve the best long-term health, functionality, and aesthetics for their teeth, mouth, and gums. Conveniently located at Grant Park Festival on Taylor Avenue, Holt Dental is dentistry of the highest quality in a comfortable and relaxed environment. For more information, visit holtdental.ca. Oh, and there's plenty of free parking at the front door, too. Celebrating its 40th year as Winnipeg's home for stand-up comedy, Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club has recently been named Canada's top comedy club and a top 5 comedy club in North America. From birthday parties to date nights to fundraisers and everything in between, Rumors is your destination for the best and most affordable live entertainment Winnipeg has to offer. For more information on upcoming shows, Rumors' incredible promotions, and to purchase tickets, visit rumorscomedyclub.com.
So you're a pizza person, you married a wing person, but somehow your kids are salad people. You can't pick your fam, but you can pick your BP meal deal. Starting from $18.99 for takeout or delivery at bostonpizza.com.
Welcome back to the Illegal Curve postgame show. Hezzy, it's been a long day, long broadcast, but hey, we're enjoying it. We're appreciating that everybody who has joined us for both the Illegal Curve broadcast that we brought you today, the pregame show, and now this post-game show. Well, as it's just kind of any final thoughts, I mean, the Jets special teams continue to work. The man advantage 6-on-5 continues to work. 5-on-5 definitely needs to improve. That's my kind of quick takeaway. Any final thoughts from you on with when it comes to the hockey game?
Yeah, I mean, look, this was a bad game for the Jets. There's no way you can really sugarcoat it.
Mm-hmm.
Like they got worked. I think Scott O'Neill actually used those words. And but I do want to be the glass half full guy and say that the Jets did make a game out of this. So I mean, easily they could have just kind of withered away and lost this game by 3 or 4 goals.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the fight back, and you mentioned the power play. Obviously, that has been a huge story early on for the Jets. Not just the power play, but the special teams in general. Look, Davis Payne and Dean Chenoweth, obviously these guys have had an immediate impact because the players deserve a lot of the credit too, but the coaching staff, I think, deserves a lot of the credit for the way that they have revamped both the power play and the special and the PK. So I think you're right. I mean, I think that's what stands out. The Jets get another couple power play goals, but that's what's probably going to stand out the most. In addition to the fact that the Tavares, Nylander, Pacioretty line just absolutely dominated the Jets. You like to see the fight back, the pushback from the Jets. So that's what kind of stands out to me. And look, I mean, this had to come to an end eventually, right? Like the Jets weren't going to go 82-0. So even though we were joking that it was looking like they were because they just couldn't be beat, but I think a desperate team came to Winnipeg, and they proved that they're still one of the top teams in the East. I realize a lot of people don't want to hear that, but I think by the time I mean, the Leafs are going to be a playoff team. I don't think anybody's going to argue that. But I think when all is said and done, I don't think anybody's going to be surprised that they're a top 3 team in the Atlantic.
No surprise there. Early happy birthday, T. Conapoli. I was furiously trying to figure out if he
happy birthday.
Well, it's an early happy birthday. We'll wish
Early
him
happy
happy birthday
birthday.
on Wednesday. That's the game against the Red Wings. That's when his birthday is. But happy early birthday. Saw some chitter chatter.
That's why the Jets didn't win, because they wanted to leave their loss for a non-Ticona Pauly birthday. So what they're going to do is they're going to go into the battleground state of Michigan and they're going to beat the Red Wings.
There you go. Big, bold Ginsburg guarantee. Well, what can only thing follow a big, bold Ginsburg guarantee is...
Put on your antlers. It's time for the Minute Moose Minute on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show.
Hey, there I was. Anyways, the Minute Moose Minute, as the Manitoba Moose were in action on Sunday, Ezzy. It was Hockey 101. Nobody knows about hockey more than you, because you, of course, work for Hockey Manitoba. So maybe before I go on about the Moose, maybe talk a little bit about the initiative that introduced hockey to so many folks.
Yeah, well, we talked a little bit about it on the Saturday show, but I think it's just great to try to get as many newcomers into the game. And I know I know specifically because I helped get a little bit of a ticket deal for one group of ESL. My dad's partner teaches ESL, so they were at the game. So people from all over the world seeing hockey for the first time, but really, beyond that, it was trying to just expose the game and educate as many people as possible. So I think it was a great idea. And I'm pretty sure that this is going to be an annual event. Hockey Manitoba was there on the concourse, just educating people about what we do. Obviously, we're primarily involved in minor hockey as opposed to pro hockey, which we talk about here. But so it was nice for the Moose to invite Hockey Manitoba to be a part of it. Mm-hmm. And, just great to see the beginning of another Moose season. I know the Moose have only played 6 games now, but, nice to see the Moose back on home ice, and obviously nice to see them pick up the big win on Sunday.
Yep. Our 10th season, Ezzy, of pretty much being the sole coverage, I should say, sorry. It's been a long day for AHL hockey in this city. So, Jets prospects and, of course, what's going on with the AHL team, because we care and focus on both. But the Moose got back in action, a bunch of changes to the lineup. Ben King came in for Chaz Lucius, because as I've been touching on, he's dealing with some ice time management, which the Jets are. I talked to Chaz Lucius about it after, he's been playing, and he wants to get into games. Trust me, he wants to play back to back, but they're slowly working him in. A few other changes. Former Winnipeg Ice from Alberta, but he played for the Winnipeg Ice for a number of years. Ben Zloty, he made his Moose debut on the back end. He was lined up with Fox Warren's Dawson Barteau, and Dominic
also played for the Winnipeg Ice.
Yeah.
Barteau did. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. So there's all these Winnipeg Ice connections, but Dominic DiVincentis, the Jets prospect goaltender, the other one, of course, with Thomas Milic, he got the net on Sunday, and he was very good when he got that net. Only gave up 1 goal, which was a shorthanded goal. Speaking of shorthanded goals, Dylan Anhorn, also from Alberta, he's a smooth skater and a smooth talker, and he had a beautiful shorthanded goal for the Moose to open up the scoring. I think it was about 12 minutes into the first period. Kind of went with Henry Nikkinen. The Ice Hogs were a little casual. Ice Hogs has loaded with talent, very young team though. Probably an inopportune switch during an Elias Salamonson double minor. And then you just saw Anhorn recognize while he was in the neutral zone, he went for it and then put it home to make it a 1-0 game. After giving up a shorthanded goal themselves late in that first period, the Moose continued to play well. Brad Lambert, he got his first of the season on the power play. The assists go to Elias Salamonson, Nikita Chibrikov. That trio combined with Nikita Chibrikov scoring on Saturday. So expect that trio of Jets prospects to have some success on the special teams with the Manitoba Moose. And then CJ Cease, he made it a 3-1 game about 5 minutes after Lambert scored. And then Dominic DiVincentis, says he shut down the door, made 30 saves for his Winnipeg debut. He's already made his pro debut, but he did that in Iowa. This was his Winnipeg debut, and he made 30 saves to pick up the win. So the Moose they're 3-3 now on the season, and now they're preparing for their next round of action. They're facing the red-hot Grand Rapids Griffins, who they already faced in the second weekend set, and Grand Rapids is 6-1. So the Moose are going to have a tall order on Friday and Saturday. We'll have tickets for that. We'll give those away throughout the course of the week, probably on Wednesday and then on Friday's show, because there's a little bit of a conflict there with the Jets playing, of course, in Columbus. But the Moose come out on top 3-1. Dominic DiVincentis, like I said, Dylan Anhorn gets his first goal as a pro, and Brad Lambert gets the game winner. So good for the Moose, and they continue to find a little bit of success. Prospects continue to develop. And quickly as Colby Barlow, 2 goals. Good for him. He kind of has been, having a little
He had a bit of a rough start to the season, eh?
He had a very rough start to the season. I think he went pointless in his first 6 games with Oshawa after the trade. And then he did have, a shootout game-winning goal, but nothing to show up on the points, on the score sheet. But he finally had 2 goals in an Oshawa victory yesterday. So maybe he's back. He's got 5 points in his last 5 games. So Colby Barlow starting to get rolling a little bit, and that's good for the Winnipeg Jets because they need him to have a good year, similar to what Braden Yeager's doing in Moose Jaw and Kevin He is doing with Niagara. Even Kieran Walton is doing well for Sudbury. So a lot of Jets prospects having success this season, and we're keeping track of it as best we can on illegalcurve.com. All right, Az, I'll give you the final word, and then I'm going to say goodbye to everyone because it's been a long broadcast and it's time to go.
You're going to get the final word that, Dave. I'm not going to get the final word, but no, thanks everybody for listening. And even though, or watching, I should say, and listening, but even though it's a loss, again, 8-1 is a pretty darn good start. So I think everybody should not lose focus of the fact that the Jets are still first in the Central, still first in the Western Conference, and I believe still first in the NHL, if I'm not mistaken, at least based on points percentage, right, Dave?
Yeah.
So it had the dream had to come to an end eventually, but it was still a pretty fun game. Just more fun if you were a Leafs fan.
That's true, but I guess I was a little remiss, so I'm going to kind of do something a little bit late, but based on how good his shots were, I kind of have to give Kyle Connor the
Seagram shot of the game.
I was going to say something in the chat there, Dave, but I didn't want to upset you.
Yeah, that's all good.
So which goal are we going to give it to him? I mean, we can't give it to his third goal.
Got to give it to his first one. Got to give it to his first one
too. Yeah,
the Kyle Connor first one was definitely the Seagram shot
on
of
the
game.
Power play. Yeah.
A big thanks to our friends at Seagram's, Manitoba's favorite Canadian whiskey, and of course, we all know if you go out to Gimli, you know all about Seagram's. But this has been that shot itself. Again, Kyle Connor approaching 500 points, most likely gets it done in Detroit, in his home state. So that'll mean a lot to him. Probably have friends and family hitting that mark. No surprise as for those of us who watch Kyle Connor at the University of Michigan, because you could see from him that his goal scoring was electric. His passing was electric. He's been even Steven throughout his career. We tend to forget that he gets almost as many assists as he has goals. They're right there step by step. So Kyle Connor gets the Seagram's shot of the game. So
and he'll be getting many more Seagram's shot of the game, shots of the game for the majority of the season. What is he on pace for 75 goals right now?
72, if you want to be precise. Not quite as impressive as Josh Morrissey's, I think 90, because 82 assists because he has 10. No, he's actually on pace for 92, I think, right now, because he has 9 assists. He had Josh Morrissey quietly had a 3-assist day. But anyways, at the end of the day, the Jets, the most important factor, the most important thing you focus on is that the Jets lost the game. That's the final conclusion. Tough one for Winnipeg. They'll be traveling straight to Detroit, so no media availability tomorrow. We'll have some Moose stuff for you, of course, but we'll be back in action on Wednesday night, right around, what do you think? I think it's a 6:30 start time again, Ezzy, so probably around same time on Wednesday night. T. Kona Pauly's birthday. I'm not going to say which birthday it is, but we're going to be there to celebrate with T. Kona Pauly.
25, right?
Regardless of the outcome of the game. Anyways, thanks very much for everyone for joining us, and a big thank you to all the sponsors of Illegal Curve who make the post-game show, who make the Saturday show, and make the website illegalcurve.com a possibility. They are in no particular order. Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club, Plant You Now, Holt Dental, Boston Pizza, City Place, Tough Duck, and Seagram's. Support these fine businesses because of their continued support of Illegal Curve Hockey. All right, everyone, that's all for Ezra Ginsburg. I'm Dave Minuk. This has been another Illegal Curve broadcast. We appreciate it. Smash that like button on the way out. Make sure you're subscribing, and of course, leave a comment in the chat or in the comments, I should say, on these videos. We try and reply to them, and of course, that helps with the algorithm, whatever that means. For Ezra, for myself, have a great night. We're all done. Time to go to bed. Good night, everyone.
Thanks for listening to this broadcast from Illegal Curve Hockey. For more great Illegal Curve content, subscribe to the Illegal Curve YouTube channel, follow at Illegal Curve on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and visit your online home for hockey in Winnipeg, illegalcurve.com.